So the two tabs, you found your agendas on the first tab. Okay. We're live. You all set, Alan? Counselor
We
Ward?
are. Let's do this. Let's do the Pledge of Allegiance now, and then we can roll from one to the other if we could, please. So I'll open up this town council meeting for tonight, workshop. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, all you, Twyla.
Okay, Counselor Colby?
Here.
Counselor Gannon?
Here.
Counselor La Rochelle?
Here.
Counselor Ward?
Here.
Counselor Lunt?
Here.
Counselor Fellows?
Here.
And Counselor Albert?
Can we circle back, because he's coming through the door
On his
pretty
way?
darn quick.
Sure. And the first item on your agenda would be your workshop, department head goals. Do you want a
Perfect.
motion to go into workshop?
Yes, please. I need a first on that.
I make the motion.
Second.
I'll second.
I have the first and second. All in favor?
Order pass, 6-0.
Thank you. And for the sake of time, what we've talked about here, and I'm hopeful everybody's in agreement. If not, speak up, please. I would like Diane to go through the goals one by one. She'll kind of pause at the end of each department or committee. Anybody has any questions, we can move on, but I'd like to actually try to stay to the 1 hour format so we're not having everybody here until 10 o'clock tonight, if you don't mind. Anybody opposed to that?
I don't. Will the, may I?
Please.
Will the department heads actually here to answer questions if there's a
That
concern?
is why they're here.
Some of
so-
them are here, not all of them.
Yep.
Yep.
So I was just curious if that actually fit
Yep.
into that.
That was the intent, is to
Yep.
get them
Clear
here
definition.
to be able to hear it. We've read their presentations here, go over them in public to be able to make sure that anybody had any questions with content, we could take them from there.
Perfect.
Okay?
Thank you.
That said, you have the
Yep.
floor, Diane.
I'll start with town manager because you've already gone over your goals. So town manager, continue cross-training and succession planning for all departments. Continue open communication between manager, department heads and staff. Continue to identify efficiencies within departments and promote collaboration between departments. Continue to increase transparency. Continue to improve ways to engage citizen involvement and disseminate information on local issues. Continue department training and compliance. Continue ordinance review. Continue personnel policy review and update. Continue to apply for grant funds to help fund major infrastructure improvements. Assist with planning major projects and help fund new projects. Negotiate 3 collective bargaining agreements. Close out the 2018 CDBG grant. Complete munis conversion, tax, and start the utility conversion. Continue department head evaluations. Visit departments on a more regular basis. And work with the clerk to initiate employee service awards during a council meeting for council recognition.
Anybody have any questions?
I assume that continue means those were in the goals last time.
They are, some of them are, and they'll always be ongoing.
Okay. Good, move on.
Technology. Continue with computer replacements and solicit bids for IT maintenance and support.
On that one, do we have a set replacement program that's in place, or?
Yes, we do.
Big question of mine. Yeah.
Yep, we
Okay.
do. We have a list, and it's by year. This year, we replaced, I think, around 15 computers, and then we had the newer computers, we had to upgrade to a new Windows. So new Windows software. We were running some of the older software, and we had to upgrade to Windows 10.
Okay,
And may I?
please.
And also on that, is there actually like an ongoing, with that, like an ongoing plan that goes out? I mean, is this kind of like a yearly evaluation, or is there actually more of a long-term, like 5-year plan?
It's long-term.
It's a long-term.
Yeah.
That's something that's actually been established, so we know budgetary-wise for the next, 3 to 5 years.
Well, we usually budget the same. The only difference is this year we had to do the PD service, so that was outside of our normal operating budget. But we budget the same thing every year, and then we upgrade just so many computers
Yep. And that's more
within that. And then we have money set aside for any of the emergencies.
Yeah, so that's actually not really listed in a capital improvement in a sense.
No.
So So big items like the police server and stuff, I mean, is that typically part of our,
I don't know, did you ever have that in your capital improvement plan, the PD server? It was, okay, yeah.
I mean, it just, I mean, I'm not sure, because ours are what, 2 or 3 years old now that we actually
Yeah,
have
I'm gonna,
like a-
that's a good point, so I'm gonna look back to see when we did that, and we should, I'll find out from Nick when we should plan to do another upgrade, and we'll get that into the CIP.
I would just think if it's an investment over, say, like $10,000 in a yearly budget, I'm not sure where you
Yeah.
typically that you put that, but it would just be nice to build into our capital plan, so it's not last minute, big dollar expenditures. Yeah.
Reaction at budget time when it's the worst time to feel it, right?
Yeah, making a,
Thank you.
it's a good, all right. Town buildings. Continue with building projects to improve overall structures and safety. Fire Department, Lisbon Falls, new rubber roof and updated electrical service panels. Streamline the bidding process to make town-related building projects easier to manage and less burdensome. Put together a certified contractor database for the assorted trades to help streamline the bidding process. Reduce the amount of time required to manage town buildings, HVAC systems, start a CIP, and start funding a reserve account to replace the town office. And we've already gotten a quote, which would be approximately $500,000 to replace this one up overhead. Continue working with the PW director on the best practical, I can't say that, approach to a new salt shed. They are working on that, so there might be some more cost-effective ways to replace that without building a whole brand-new building. We can use what's on site. Continue with daily building-related tasks.
I have a question.
Sure.
Am I completely blind, or are we replacing this building when? 50 years from now? Or?
No, it's the
HVAC.
HVAC system.
Oh.
I'm sorry, Don.
Well, it says replace the town office.
I know
so
the way
Yeah.
it treats you, but absolutely.
Yeah.
It was
The second
something that
question I have is, don't see anything in here about upgrading outside of this building. I know it can be set under normal business, but there's some things outside. Like, for instance, if you came in here tonight, you're blind coming in the front. We need
That's-
to do something about that.
Yeah, Dennis is working on that.
I don't see it in here, and that's why I thought.
It was in last year's CIP, but he ran out of time this fall to do the work, so he is going to get some of that done in this budget.
And that's
That is-
entrance lighting is what you're talking about.
Entrance lighting, that's all part of his
Entrance,
current,
whatever.
his
thing.
current goals.
Okay.
Yep.
That was kind of tied to where my question was going to be, is do we have, this is, continue with building projects and overall structures and safety. Does he have anything to base on that we can hear the budgets for all the buildings?
Yeah. That's,
I know he brought us like 6 or 8 projects, but what's the full list look like, so we actually know what he's
Okay.
prioritizing?
I'll
If
get
he could
that
speak a little bit towards
Yep.
that.
during the budget process, right? We're in pretty good shape. We did a lot this past year. But, there's always some small ongoing things, but the major things, I believe, are done, except for this HVAC system and the sand shed, pretty much.
Still need to
But there's
address-
still ongoing things, but the bigger stuff, I don't think there's a whole lot out there, but we'll get that.
I just remember in the not too distant past, maintenance for all city buildings, our town buildings, was a joke. We've done a lot to actually improve the infrastructure, so we should invest in what our largest infrastructure costs are, rather than just band-aiding approach.
Yep.
So, to not lose what momentum we've gained in actually trying to stay ahead of it. The second one that comes off the page here, because it's in my wheelhouse, is what's the issue that's driving him or bogging him down in the budget bidding processes?
I think just having to following our procurement policy and getting the required quotes or bids when you have a large project. But
Yeah.
there's really no way around that. You still need to do it.
There's a certain level. We
I
don't
think-
formalize purchasing divisions, so the fact is it falls
Yep.
to the departments, and he's going to get more of them because of the nature of what he does for the town
Exactly.
building's responsibility.
I think by the what I read into that, it's more the idea of as we do on some of our engineering and stuff like that, we do a yearly sometimes we actually do like a yearly,
Like a maintenance contract with a contractor to do certain building?
well, part of that, but also the idea of when we actually look at a yield, whether it's a lawyer or engineer or something, we actually go out to bid and we actually get one to feed us the fairest per hour labor rate. And I mean, if you actually were to do that once a year, and then actually have a contractor that you know is actually on call that you can call and actually get something taken care of and actually know what the rate is compared to everybody else. So it's actually a fair process.
Yeah.
So we're still actually doing our due process, the idea of actually, comparing other rates and make sure we're getting the best rate, but yet you don't have to do it time for time, so that if there is an emergency, or whether it's electrical or plumbing, and it's not actually part of our regular maintenance program, that they would be able to make the call and get that done. Whether it's electrical or whether it's, I use some examples like the lighting in Lisbon, if you
Yeah.
actually have an electrical person that actually has already given you a fair bid for hourly rate, and you have a project that needs to be addressed, then you're able to call them in and actually do it, within a certain range. I mean, we're not talking about a huge amount of money, but we're just talking about the idea of, yearly having a list of general contractors that actually meet
Yeah,
the
like
requirements.
to do the incidental things.
Yeah.
The larger projects would still go out to bid.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of
You
where
could-
this was leaning to, more so than the idea of not, just
Presupposing, right?
yeah, just
Yeah.
basically having a plan, so we actually have a list of people that we've already have agreements with that
Yep.
we can actually work with. That's all. If
That would
makes
make it
any
a lot
sense.
easier for everybody if we could do that.
Establishing that if he needs anything, I know I've done it for a variety of different terms, let me know. The fact is, if he's looking everything from demo to large
Yep.
contractors to small contractors,
Yep.
I'm doing the same thing in my capacity, so gladly share, because it's other communities have helped me do the same thing.
Yeah.
Streamlining, right?
Right.
Yeah, I think for the actual construction work, electrical work, and plumbing work, and we already have the heating, so I think it's just those three.
Thank you. Anybody else on that?
Is that something he'd bring a proposal during budget season, so we can actually make a plan on that, how we move forward
Yep.
at the beginning of the year? Yep.
Yeah, that was one of the more productive nights when he and actually Randy joined forces and gave us a real list of what we needed to be able to do, so we know what we're going to cover, tackle a lot.
Yep. Agreed.
Okay.
Evening?
Go on to assessing. Mass mailing of homestead exemption forms to owners who do not have the exemption, mass mailing to qualifying personal property tax accounts without Betty application, and electronic files need to be reorganized and backed up on the shared network drive.
Did I read there's 4,000 residents that don't have them? Something like that?
No.
400? 400, well, okay.
Yeah.
It's a factor of 10.
Yeah. Huge factory, but
We did a mass mailing, was it a couple of years ago? And we really grabbed a lot at that time.
Yep.
But we have to do it on every couple of years, because
It's
we'll
good.
pick up
Some
more.
people just don't realize, and it's helpful when they do find out. May I?
Jeez, please.
The only question on that is the IT part of that. Is that actually covered under IT, or is that actually separate when it comes to the idea of what we're doing in assessing? Because that's been updated in the last couple of years, right? Putting all that in and.
Yeah, you're talking on Trio, right? But don't they back up the system?
No, I'm talking about all of our, you're talking about the files?
Yeah, the electronic files.
No, this is all kinds of things. Spreadsheets, letters, everything. We've got them saved on 2 different machines in different places. And it sounds like it's a no-brainer. You should be able to just save it same way every time, but you don't always have that luxury where you're
So you need to have a shared drive, and and it'll automatically save to the server. We can take care of that. Yeah. Yep. Shared drive. Yep.
So you're actually, if you have a document, you can actually just scan it
Yeah,
and it goes to
we-
the right place, so you can pull it back and not have to search for it. And that's what the question I was asking, whether or not that's the same.
Yeah.
Same budget area, same.
Roundtable can do that for us.
I mean,
Yep.
that's, I'm going to tout her horn here in that regard, is the fact is if she's setting the valuation,
Yeah.
that should be a priority. Yeah. Because everything that she's working on needs to be real time and be able to be retained, because it drives everything afterwards for the budget.
Now, this may be a
Please.
larger discussion, but what gets backed up in Trio isn't really getting backed up in that same area you're talking about, right? I mean, it's
No,
two
but it would if we
different
had it on a
entities.
shared drive.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how much of how much of the PCs are being backed up. They may be being backed up because they're on the network. So they probably are being backed up. But what you're saying is if Amy is at her desk and she's working on something and you're at your desk, you should be in the same drive so it's updating everything. That's what she's getting at.
Individually, sometimes just save things on
Right.
our machine.
Exactly. Now you want to save it on a shared drive so you both see it. Yeah. Yeah.
That should be automatically backing up.
Yeah, I think it is. It probably is
If it isn't,
automatically.
we certainly should be having that discussion with
It's on the
Roundtable that.
network, so it should be, but I'm going to double check that.
I just heard what you said, and I heard you say sometimes you're saving locally to your own machine. See, that's the challenge, and that's why it should never be. I mean, if you're saving it because you want to play around with it, that way you're off the network and not. That makes perfect sense. But it should never be work that you worked on for that day saved locally there because then
Right.
it's not captured where it needs to be captured, which is on that drive.
That's what we need to do. We need to go through
Yeah.
our machine and make sure that everything's.
Yeah.
That's an easy that's an easy switch to flip
It
as
is.
far as just a simple automatic save. It's auto saving all throughout the day. It's not
It is.
dependent on the person behind the machine to push the save key. It's just constantly happening.
Yep. And again, I didn't mean to bring it into a huge discussion. I just want to make sure that we actually have the right tools that we can actually work with.
You're
right?
asking the right person because I am IT inclined.
The
Right, Norm?
You are.
the other question is, I guess, is there a lot of old files that, I mean, there's a lot of paperwork in assessing. I mean, is all that now brought into Trio? Is that actually some of that actually has to go to a different location or a different save, different place?
No, we have a lot of old letters and forms and stuff, and that's part of what we're doing is we're looking through stuff, and it's like, do we need this? If not, we're deleting stuff to free up space. A lot of it is, we've got it saved 3 different ways, and so we're trying to streamline, trying to get organized electronically.
Which could be a big undertaking, right? But either way, as long as we have the right tools in place to make it work, that's the most important part, and we know it's actually going to a place that we can recover it, so.
Moving on to code enforcement. Continue with major cleanup efforts throughout town, primarily major arteries and arterial roads. Continue dangerous building classifications and demo. Continue to promote positive development in town, streamline processes to make it easier for new development, economic growth. Work and gain support from town council on addressing 142 Ridge Road property issues, and continue work improving our GIS Lisbon mapping.
Can I ask what the difference between 142 Ridge Road and some of the other dangerous building, why he highlighted that?
Isn't that the one that splits the town line?
Because it's divided between the two communities, right?
No, that's not the one.
You're thinking of that Route 9 building?
Yeah.
142.
I'm thinking of Ridge Road itself. It's a pretty long expanse. I just can't utilize the
Oh, I-
142.
I think it's, it's the one more.
It-
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Well, yes.
I now know the address.
It's a little more of a challenge, that's all.
Yes.
Yep. Unique.
It is a challenge.
Does he have a? He must have a list that he's actually working on that, so I'd be interested to hear the content to be able to help him assist. Okay. Anything else? Finance.
Finance, continue with the Munis implementation, continue with cross-training of all positions, develop a more comprehensive CIP plan with the department heads, streamline reports in an effort to speed along the audit process, develop and maintain a more comprehensive fixed asset depreciation report, have all financial reporting housed within the finance department as it relates to grants, and link with other departments in the grant record-keeping effort.
Sounds easy, right?
Yeah, that last one's been a challenge for us, but we're getting there.
Yep. And may I?
Please.
I guess the question is financially or budgetary-wise with Eunice, are we getting to the point where it's kind of a steady known? I mean, there isn't any big surprises coming up financially that we know of in next year, implementing any of the stuff that
No.
hasn't been implemented, so,
No.
okay.
No.
And the training part of what we put aside, is that actually is there still a balance for that?
There is.
There is, so we still have room for training if needed? Okay.
Yeah.
So where are we pushing with the capital improvement plan? You have my attention.
To just kind of take what was already existing and to
No, I like the approach. I like one of the limitations that I've seen in the evolution to here is we have a lot of purchases, but very few projects. It would really actually benefit to know what we're thinking of 3-5 years down the line, so you get tied in a lot sooner to be able to start actually reporting that back out there. I mean, we're moving in the right direction. It's just getting everybody on the same page, because this year would be interesting to see school and water presenting it in the same format that the municipal is. That's huge. You know, so just to be able to share those information across the various departments. Thank you. Same question, fixed assets, boring topic. Nobody likes to talk to the fixed asset person, but where are you going with that one?
So fixed assets, currently the auditors do an Amazon test service to kind of maintain our fixed asset depreciation report, and we get it from them at the end of the business year review. And I'm hoping to have it in-house, so that way we can kind of eke out that non-test service service, and
Right,
that
right.
I would track depreciation, do it in real time instead of at the end of the year for disposals, additions, and then start to track depreciation expense itself, myself. So that way I would just provide the depreciation expense journal entry to the auditors at the end of the year.
Perfect. I would caution you, don't try to do it in Munis, because it's going to be way more cumbersome than you want to get into for the benefit. But by all means, taking your own resource, build your own database or spreadsheet. It's easier to maintain, for sure.
Yeah, Excel's my friend.
Yeah, right on. Thank you.
May I?
Please.
A number of years back, there was, with a different finance director, there was a lot of consolidation of a lot of different accounts. And is that kind of still kind of where that all lays? I mean, I'm not sure is there still room for consolidation of different accounts, or, and I don't really know where those were, but I just know at one point in time there was a lot of consolidation on different accounts. As far as, and maybe it's too broad of a question, but
We had a lot of activity accounts at one point that were actually either redundant or limited value, small accounts. So is what we have out there for all the various accounts that are actually in your control realistic, or is there improvement for that, for efficiencies is where he's going, I believe?
I believe we are heading in that right direction, working with Munis and getting it in that system module has allowed us to kind of reevaluate those accounts. And like you said, if they are inactive, so to say, that we're not using them, then we look and we say, okay, well, maybe we'll take this out of the equation. It's not an active account. So we're doing it in real time with the Munis system, and I'm constantly evaluating the account pretty much on a daily basis with whatever comes across my desk. So I think that for FY '21, it's going to be definitely an achievable goal to clear that. We won't have any kind of outlier accounts hanging out there that aren't being used.
Perfect.
and a lot of that was probably done just the idea of going into Eunice, if there was anything that was actually, left over or that was actually taken away. Yep. Just
One of the side benefits associated with the Munis is you have much better project and grant accounting than you had in Trio. I mean, for everything to get us to here, that is one of the real advantages from your perspective, is to be able to what we can extract out of it. So, good. Thank you.
Moving on to clerk.
Sure.
Continue training deputy and assistant clerks. Continue to develop electronic storage and retrieval plan. Continue archiving council meeting minutes and videos with Clerkbase. Budget costs to add planning, appeals, and assessment review boards to Clerkbase. Budget and fiscal year 2021 funds for pictures and framing project. Pictures and frames for pictures of interest like incorporation docs and or early town meeting docs. Reinstate deputy clerk position back to full-time hours, add 14 hours, dedicating additional hours to assisting with monthly reports vault maintenance, voter registration maintenance, historical displays, training, election work, and additional office duties. Work on vault maintenance and vault organization, and continue with Phase 3 for the records restoration work. Year 3 books, 19 to 15, 16, 17, and 18.
Thank you. You've got a lot of good content that's actually tied directly to the budget. So I like how you tied it back.
Yes, it's going to be very critical that we reinstate the deputy position if we really want to get into the vault and do some organization and maintenance. We haven't been able to do any of that, and all of a sudden, what we thought was going to last us 10 years is filling up fast. So we need to take those boxes and go through them. We need to make sure that they fall into the disposition schedule. When we're getting rid of something, it has to be according to the state and local rules. So it requires careful thought, and it requires a town manager's signature prior to anything being disposed of. So that's a very time-consuming project, you can see, but very necessary.
Question, I mean, as far as our taping and our social media part of our meetings, is that pretty much where we need to be now? I mean,
We are storing that on our clerk base. If we are storing it right now also on our website, but that's just going to be a 5-year retrieval. And so with clerk base, it's going to be more of a permanent retrieval. So if you go into clerk base and you go to your minutes, you'll see a little arrow at the top where our videos are stored, our minutes, all the actions and all the attachments. So you can complete history, all electronic. Even though we keep a paper copy of it, it's nice to have both.
okay. Yeah, I know there was some question a few years back on where that would actually fall as far as how we kept it and maintained it. But good.
Something that says permanent in the local disposition schedule means permanent, not electronic.
Gotcha.
So even if you have a duplicate copy in electronic, which is nice, and today that's where we're at, in some of these records you would have to have them permanent as well, which means we need to retain the paper copies, but not for everything. It's just a certain things.
Need a bigger room if we did, right?
Well, that goes back to the maintenance, though. Like, we don't need a paper copy for everything, so you haven't had the ability to be able to go in and take a look at what it is that we can,
Right.
cannot, or is it all permanent?
No, there's lots of things in that schedule that we keep 6 years, 7 years, purchase orders and of that sort of thing. But town meeting records are permanent, so vital records were permanent. So a lot of them, I mean, there's a give and take to some of the types of documents that are going to be still in paper. But there's a majority are coming up now, going through are probably electronic. If it's born electronic, it's electronic, and it doesn't have to be stored in paper.
Perfect.
Police. Equip marked cruisers with less lethal munitions. The equipment was purchased and weapons modified for less lethal beanbag rounds in 2019. Modified weapons will be placed in department vehicles upon completion of department-wide training in February. Implement active shooter preparedness response training. Equipment purchased in 2019 and training scheduled for March of 2020. Increase traffic enforcement activity by 15%. Increase police citizen communication. Greater use of social media, department website, coffee with a cop type programs, and completion of lesson plan for February 2021 Citizen Police Academy course. Expand recruitment opportunities, increase officer engagement with CMCC, LE program, former military recruitment, and college career fairs. Review for competitive pay rates at reserve and full-time positions in communications and patrol. Address training needs within department. Defensive tactics, increase officer canine familiarity, continue cross-training. Explore report writing software options to improve report writing process. Research and determine probable next generation of department firearms. Maintain department-wide efforts towards previous goals that require continual effort and intent. Leadership, cross-training of personnel, proactive thought at all levels, liability reduction.
Sounds like a busy year.
He's had a busy.
I particularly liked the police academy thing. That was good when we had it.
And yeah,
Please.
and most of what's on your goals actually is a lot of it actually mentioned that you actually fulfilled in your last year's budget, but the rest of it's already would be in this budget also as far as coming up for this year.
Yeah, well, the first two things, as far as the less lethal and the active shooter, we got the equipment. It took us a while to come up with good standard operating procedures. We met with the AG's office, had some department-wide training. So it just took us a little longer to actually implement it, but that'll be done in the next couple months. You know, a couple of these are just continual efforts as far as leadership goes and being proactive. Yeah, and then, you know, there's some pay issues with staying competitive and so forth.
One other,
Yep.
your capital improvement on your cruises, I know that's been kind of an ongoing process. Are we getting to the point where that's kind of taking its place now and everything seems to be working well that way, or?
Yeah, yes and no. This year with Ford implementing the brand new design, almost all the equipment won't fit that we have purchased in the last several years.
Correct,
So
yeah.
we got to go through a retrofit. Just so we're not feeling left out though, Dodge this year and Chevrolet are going through their changes of their models. So now all of their equipment won't be fitting for the future next few years. So I think we're still good with Ford. It's the cars, the two that we ordered for this year, supposed to be built next month. Hopefully we'll be getting them in March, and we'll move forward with
And
that.
is that something you plan on actually, will that need to be added to your capital improvement, you think, or is that something you actually will do with like forfeit money, or, I mean, because there's going to be quite an expense. I mean, probably several thousand for each car coming on, you know, so.
Yeah, it's already, you know, roughly 5,000-6,000 every year anyway for
Yeah.
cars. Now we're going to be adding a little bit more to it. We still have enough, I think, to cover us the next couple of years in our forfeited assets, and we'll have to sit back and review at that point.
Happens every, every 3 to 5 years, a model change, and,
Yeah, they got to change something.
yep.
Yeah, just enough.
All right, perfect.
Still
Thank you.
better than when we were at with the leases, having to pay for a new lease every year. When budgeting of it is the way
Yes.
to go.
As far
Yeah.
as what we're doing with the one cruiser
Yeah.
every year and two every other, that's working out for us, which should be good because we're about to have a lot more people on the road with the new supervisors and so forth, so should hold up well.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Fire Department?
Sure.
Continue recruitment measures to increase personnel, increase public relations through more fire prevention details throughout the year, to increase consistent communication within the fire department by having a single department meeting on a more regular basis, continue work with fire departments officers to continually review and update the standard operating guidelines and policies of the police department, start planning and looking into a new fire station.
The, may
Sure.
I?
Yep.
So as part of that, and maybe Chief can,
He's
not
he's
here
gone
tonight.
to see the new fire truck.
there you go. And it's coming along very nicely.
Yes.
It looks nice. I know one of the times that we had actually spoke about that new fire station, whether it's a single station or how that plays out. One of the hopes I think we had asked last year during budget season, and I'm not sure if it was worked on very much because of a lot of stuff going on, was the idea of modifying the capital improvement plan to what that would look like if it was more of a single station versus a dual station, because I don't think that the capital improvement plan really has been modified much in several years, I don't think, unless it's been changed that I know of anyways, but I know it's kind of outdated. Last time we looked at it, there was a lot of actually, the history proves that we haven't really been very fair to that capital improvement plan over the years, so I'm just curious if that ought to be part of that too, is actually improving that, or at least seeing if it's up to speed. And maybe I'm wrong, maybe it actually is maybe it was, more updated in the last year or so, but it'd be nice to see, especially if, the thought, we talk about, but we don't talk about is the idea if we were to actually merge into a single station, what our
apparatus.
equipment, what the apparatus would look like and how that would actually affect that capital improvement.
Yeah. No, I can have them do it both ways.
Mr. Chair, this start planning and looking into a new fire station seems to implicate that if we're not building just one fire station, we're building a central one or something here, just in the goal. So
Right,
I assume that's what is
Whole point
planned.
of discussion for the last couple of years is actually, by necessity, he's closer to having one department,
in one
two
building.
locations,
All right.
because minimum manning and everything else, the fact is,
Yep.
whether it's actually somebody coming from Lisbon Falls or Lisbon, the need is being met. It's how we're actually getting to be able to make that happen with what we have for available people. So that's a truer statement. You know, what I like about this is that the last 3 goals are at least receptive to that, to actually having one joint leadership for one direction for as we come out the other side.
One thing that we've seen for the last several years is every year part of our capital improvement plan has some aspect of each department needing to be modified or updated, whether it's electrical, roofing, siding, flooring, heating, and that's just going to be ongoing. I mean, so the idea of eventually you have to see if the efficiency of one building versus 2 is actually practical. I mean, it's definitely an outreaching thought that a lot of people, you know, have a hard time putting their hands around, but I think it needs to be at least investigated and laid out. That's all. You know, it may be well beyond all our tenure, but you have to look at somewhere at some point where to start. So.
Public Works?
Yep.
Greater emphasis and potential incentive program developed for proper equipment care and custody. Complete all construction of paving projects in early fall. Replace salt sand shed and provide for additional covered storage for equipment to extend useful life, ultimately saving money. Provide more training opportunities for all staff. Adjust work schedule to provide for adequate work days through the spring, summer, fall to increase productivity and output. Increase the level of service provided to the community. Remove and replace approximately 3,000 to 4,000 feet of sidewalk in different areas of town. Work will be performed by the PW crew. And replace the culvert on the backside of Ferry Road.
One of the comments that I'd make associated with that list is I like the fact that incentive program associated with trying to work with staff to actually get more out of them to be able to enjoy what they're doing here. And the fact is that hasn't always been the case with our PW folks. Burning good people is something we need to stop doing. So I appreciate his effort there.
And also I'm encouraged the idea of doing just some of the town projects, because I think some of the visuals as far as the town crew has always been people don't never really see them doing what they do, but if you actually have projects very much like sidewalks and, you know, down the Arumbo side, if they're actually down there working, cleaning, and making progression, it's actually a very visual part of showing that they're actually active in improving the town, which I think is important.
Especially with his department and paving costs skyrocketing. It's time to think outside of the box, so stay tuned when we come to budget.
Okay.
Both State and Lewiston are actually projecting to actually pay 30% beyond last year.
And that was 30%.
Yeah. Beyond last
We
year.
have a remedy for that, though.
We're going to be doing 30%
Dirt roads?
less.
Gravel
I'm
roads.
hoping that's not it.
We're going to go back to rolling the roads.
A lot of
It's a
walking
cliff.
trails.
We'll have to wait. Have to wait till the budget.
Okay.
All right. Transfer station?
You're doing great. Keep moving.
Bake
Purchase.
sale. 2 words. Bake sale.
Purchase a new trash trailer to replace a nearly 10-year-old Steco trailer. Buildings, grounds, equipment maintenance, and appearance improvements. Update solid waste. No, that's old. We already did that one. Sorry, I didn't delete that.
And check it off before we even start. I like it. Yeah.
Have more workshops with the public to find a way to cover the ever-rising costs of waste disposal.
That's a good one.
Randy had at one time presented us information that we were going to be seeing something associated with portable scales.
Yeah.
Can we
He's,
just put that on there particular? If not, it doesn't really need to be
I think that's
a
going to be
goal,
your
but
answer.
part of the budget.
Yep.
That's when we were expecting
Yep.
to see that.
I believe he has a whole idea about a presentation to the council on different aspects of this.
Perfect.
All right.
Anybody else?
Good.
Keep going.
Parks and Recreation, Department restructuring, develop and offer a rideshare program for seniors, continue to increase involvement with business, vendors, volunteers, and Moxie. Dog-friendly park, Summer Street, develop signage and parking, create one yurt or lean-to for group camping. Bathhouse renovation, 1 per year over the next 5 years. Finish walkway next to MTM Park, continued from 2019. Miller Trail fencing, erosion priority. Replace fencing at MTM Park. Beaver Park Forestry Plan 2020 Invasive Species Program, increased parking at Beaver Park and Summer Street, research disc golf course options at Beaver Park, digital mapping of all walking trails, and continue to improve beachfront at Beaver Park.
Anybody? You have my attention. Restructuring.
Well, we discussed this at the December Recreation Committee meeting, and Councilor Albert was there, and we're just basically looking at role changes within the department, not adding any positions, but because we've grown so much in the last few years, to see who's doing what and how could we be more efficient.
Okay. Are you just brainstorming at this point, or is
We
there
are.
anything you need from us?
We're hoping to have something. I've been talking with Diane. I'm hoping to have a real good plan, in the next month or so, and presentation during the budget season.
Okay. I'm going to speak for the Conservation Commission because one of their two goals was Beaver Park, Beaver Park, Beaver Park. So I see that throughout the course of your goals. So you made Richard proud associated with that tonight. So thank you. And invasive species as well too. So those were the two that they brought to the discussion.
And that's an ongoing goal. It's always going to be, there's this 5-step plan for invasive species. You have to identify what the invasive species are. You have to set an action plan to eradicate them. And it's just not getting rid of them because it's an ongoing thing. You just can't just
I think you used the word containment. The fact is we know we can't address it all, but at least we're not bringing in more.
Right.
Thank you, Mark.
Yeah, sure.
I have a question.
Absolutely.
The number 8 Miller Trail fencing and erosion priority. I know when I've walked that, I've seen there's some areas there where that fence is starting to erode and fall down there. Is that?
It's falling into the river.
Yeah. So you're going to budget that for next summer. What do you think that would cost?
We have this guy that works for Lisbon. He works in the public works department. That was really good at fencing. And,
Yeah.
thinking about, we've talked about, the next step, and it may be to, we can't add a banking there, but it may be to move part of that trail over to the right so that you have
More space because it's right on the edge of the river there.
Yeah, and a more stable fencing area because it really isn't just for looks. That's really
It's
stop
a
people from
dangerous
falling
issue.
down in the river.
Somebody leans on there and goes over the edge.
Right. So, yeah,
As far as the yurts go, we're not going into glamping, are we?
Yes.
absolutely.
There's big money in that. Don't
Don't
discount
knock
it.
it. Don't knock it. I was going to ask where you're going to put the yurt.
That's a secret. I mean, we have.
Stay tuned.
Yeah, we have some areas that we have group camping already over on the Jessup Trail. If you've ever been down there, we have scouts camp there every year. But it's ideal for it overlooks Salmon Brook, and it's just a beautiful area. So it would be ideal for that area. And if you get a chance, this weekend we have our Winter Fest. Dog sledding. Elobean will be out there with snowshoes, and cross-country skiing. We had a lot going on from 10 to 2 on Saturday.
Thank you for the promotion. Next.
Library. Complete collection transition into the statewide mills system. Continue to update and add children's outreach programs. Begin to implement programs for Lisbon seniors and veterans. Continue to upgrade, improve the children's garden. Ensure the Lisbon Library continues to move forward with statewide library services. And adapt library staff job descriptions and duties to meet the needs of the community.
That's awesome. May I?
Yes.
For the first time, I don't hear carpeting or heating or anything like that. So I assume we're pretty much there on the building part of it, huh?
Right, and Dennis is very pleased. I walk by his office and I don't have to stop. This way, makes him happy.
Very nice.
The library looks wonderful.
Yep, I see little additions like the flowers going up front and stuff. So the little tuning in is kind of nice. And yep.
And we get wonderful comments as people come to visit that it's a very pleasant place to visit and spend time.
Yep, I just have one more question. It may not be totally related, but Brett may actually have an insight on this. I mean, one of the things that we're looking at as a community is the idea of some art. And we actually had some art on the side of your building at one point in time during Moxie, which actually a lot of people liked. I mean, do you see that building actually, that being part of that opportunity?
Absolutely.
Yep.
With the improvements that are already in the garden, I feel strongly that that's a gateway into Main Street for the businesses. see that we have a new fence. We've made improvements in the garden, and that's one of the goals is to continue that. It's going to be open. The parking will be open to the public to come through the garden, and that's one of the things that I think would be wonderful. Whether you're coming into the library or just swinging out and continue up Union Street, that would be so wonderful to look at.
Good. I was just kind of curious because I mean, a lot of people commented how nice that was after Moxie. I mean, it was a temporary thing, but what we'd be doing or what the town would be doing would be looking a little more permanent. But it's, I think it actually has some good merit. So, thank you. Perfect. Thank you.
Moving on? Yep. Economic and Community Development. Under Business Retention and Expansion, meet 20 business owners monthly, meet all business owners in 2020. Develop BRE business survey and gather 50 responses to inform department priorities. Deploy 3 RLF loans in 2020 to growing companies identified via Goal 1. Business attraction. Strengthen town marketing plan platform for CRE via relationships with landowners and brokers. Meet with 5 industry trade association leaders to develop awareness among influencers. Attend 4 networking events in southern and central Maine. Markets to develop pipeline. Host 3 entrepreneurs per month for local tours of local assets and amenities. Property development. Complete property inventory and identify priority parcels and areas for development. Deploy brownfield funds for 2 VRAP projects and fully spend down funds. Identify resources to support community visioning process for Warrumble Mill site and network with CRE owners and developers to identify motivated players for pipeline. Grants. Build relationships with community organizations and understand their programs and needs. Initiate dialogue with 3 new funders per month and develop 4 actionable scopes of work and budgets for 4 proposals that address community needs. Marketing. Strengthen existing platform of social media, town website, and presence at events. Capture earned media via 3 curated news articles and regional news media. Identify budget and process to procure professional assets for town brand, video, print, and social media micro-targeting.
Brett, how many of you are there in that department? Oh,
Shoot high, right?
yeah.
Very strong.
So everywhere as I go, I actually hear very positive things, that you're a very approachable person that's very motivated. Why Lisbon, Brett? Help me with the marketing. Talk to the mic right here.
That's a great question. I think Lisbon's on the way up. I think it's a great community. I think Village Street has a lot of great infrastructure there. I think the Warrumble Mill process is going to be amazing. It's going to yield great opportunities for the town to connect to the river, to expand the retail and amenities that we offer here for food and beverage experiences. I think it's a great place to raise family. I think it's going to be, as Portland continues to grow, it's going to put outward pressure for folks like myself. They're going to be looking for places like Lisbon. So I think Lisbon has a great heritage, a great strong foundation to build upon. And I think more and more people will look to Lisbon for their future.
Thank you, sir. Any other questions of Brett?
I would just ask him if he has any needs of the council to please to reach out, because we definitely are all about what you're doing. So we want to make sure you have the tools and make sure it works for you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Moving on. Wastewater treatment plant. Continue striving to maintain 100% compliance with the DEP-issued wastewater discharge license. Complete the renewal of the DEP-issued wastewater discharge license. Complete the upgrade rehab of the Davis Street pump station. Complete the enlarging of the chlorine contact tanks at the treatment plant. Complete the industrial waste surveys that are a requirement of our discharge permit. And start moving forward with succession planning for the future leaders of the department. This will involve more training and assistance with achieving higher certifications that are required to operate the wastewater treatment plant. That's an important step for that position. Those positions.
What I was saying with it
for
actually
every,
knows
in all
Steve.
departments.
All departments are correct.
Yep.
Mr. Avioli actually does a great job actually bringing us the capital improvement plan to be able to stay with it, and I like that he's actually including staff to be able to what we can do to actually train
to be able to retain people.
Does the budgets actually reflect the idea of it would be an increase most likely on training? I mean, I would assume, right? I mean, it's a lot of this stuff in the past, there hasn't been huge budgets in any department for ongoing training. I mean,
Well,
it's pretty minimal though, isn't it? Or
It is, because some of the training is free, and I think in the training that he's talking about with higher certifications, we'll pay once they get the certification and pass.
yeah.
But a lot of our trainings, some of them are free, and some of them we have to pay for, so.
It may
But
be
if
not-
he's gonna be doing,
Periodic.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, I know
yeah,
library, when they were doing the conversion, we put the energy towards that, and the fact
Mhm.
that PW getting folks trained to be able to get up to speed with
Yep.
mechanics, those things come to mind. So
yeah,
is it something we actively promote? Probably
Yep.
not to its fullest,
Mm.
but there are success stories in what we've done.
and we'll definitely increase the training lines in the budgets when it's needed and when we feel that we need to do it, based on the type of trainings they're gonna go to.
But that would have to be done earlier in the year at the initial budget process anyways,
Right.
right? To make sure that there's enough there. I know a lot of years some years we don't expend everything that we put in place, but if we actually have a good plan for that educational part of it, I know we usually do, but it's just want to make sure the funding's there when we do need to do the training.
I think that goes across the board too. I mean, and this is not just the one area. When we talked about there's been a real flux in personnel, we also understood that as we brought new folks on, we would have to open up those lines for a little bit more professional development. So I just think that it's good, as Fern said, to keep it on the radar as we run into the budget season and realize we may have to put a little bit more resource there than we have in past. So that's all.
The next one is the recreation goals. Department restructuring, develop and offer a rideshare program for seniors, continue to increase involvement with businesses, vendors, and volunteers, dog-friendly park, Summer Street to develop signage and parking, create one yurt or lean-to for group camping, outhouse renovations, 1 to 2 per year over the next 5 years, finish walkway next to MTM Park, continued from 2019, Miller Trail fencing, erosion priority, Beaver Park bathhouse renovation. And the next one's the Conservation Commission, Beaver Park Forestry Plan, 2020 Invasive Species Program, increase parking at Beaver Park and Summer Street, research disc golf course options at Beaver Park, digital mapping of all walking trails, improve beachfront at Beaver Park, and Beaver Park use planning 2020 to 2021.
Thank you.
Moving on to planning.
Yep.
Ordinances, address standards for, is this old or is that?
I have a question when you get finished. But go ahead.
Did I not change that? I'll read them
No,
anyway.
it's the same.
Address standards for child daycare and home and children's daycare facility. Add standards to allow accessory dwelling units. Add standards to allow, tiny homes. Create a land use ordinance through the consolidation of Chapter 62 site plans, Chapter 66 subdivisions, and Chapter 70 zone ordinance. Planning, support, coordinate with the
Oh, okay, go ahead, sorry.
efforts related to LDC work on the Warrumble Mill site and other potential reviews of properties or classes of properties going forward, and support and coordinate with the Conservation Commission and Recreation Department on planning for Beaver Park.
The first, address the standards for childcare, that's an old one.
Yeah,
That's
I thought
already
that
been
was.
done. And there's one thing in here that I remember from last year that was, I think, should have been in the goals, but there's some zoning challenges, particularly important zoning challenges. One around the Warrumbo Mill with some of the things that are developing there, and as well as around the former and existing mill buildings up here on this end, that the final zoning needs to be addressed or looked at, and hasn't been yet. And it was on the priority list, or it was on the list for the planning board last year, but things got in the way, and it didn't happen. So I'm wondering if that could be added to it.
Yeah, I'm going to redo the ordinance one for you, because I think this is right.
Okay.
So specifically zoning changes,
Yeah.
targeted. For certain areas.
Yeah,
Zoning changes.
zoning, potential zoning changes.
Potential.
Owen Mills.
Chairman's got that in the back of the room, I know he does.
You know what I'm talking
Well,
about,
it's
right?
the
Yeah.
chapter 70 zoning ordinances.
That's a
That's a different one.
stretch goal.
Okay. Okay. Anything else?
Anything else? Moving on.
Library Governing Board, nurture open and supportive communications with our library director and library staff by listening to concerns and providing non-judgmental feedback, attend council meetings when possible, and provide needed support, and continue to look for unique and creative opportunities to develop community partnerships. And then the LDC is the same as last year. While there will be more detailed and defined separate sub-goals, which will be communicated to the town council, our overreaching goal for the LDC is to renovate and upgrade existing downtown public infrastructure with a concentration on high visibility items and areas as a priority. We'll plan to use existing TIF funds for our operations, either as payment or as leverage for other funds that may be available for financing larger items.
Any questions with any of the content we've heard that we haven't already fleshed out? Anything that you guys have in the back for coming out tonight that didn't make the cut that you'd like to actually share with us? The intent of actually putting this on there, I appreciate everybody's effort because 4 years ago I remember sitting in the room one of the first times. The fact is, how do I know what the priority is if I don't know what you guys' priority is? Getting it in our heads to be able to help assist each other is, I think, one of the strengths that's gotten us to this point. So I thank you. It's the third year we've gone through this process. It is something that actively is considered when we make our decisions, so I thank you for your efforts. Anybody got anything? Class dismissed unless you're on the rest of the agenda and we can keep moving.
Time frame, you did well, sir.
I told you. The last meeting like this took 2.5 hours, so we held to 56 minutes.
I started to do the goals.
Did you, do you want to take a motion to,
Yeah, and I had a couple of...
Yeah, it just,
I didn't
they
think
weren't worth
it
diving
Because
into.
they're all like the-
Yeah.
They didn't change that.
do you need a motion to come out of the workshop?
Living the dream, loving the traffic.
Can
I'll
we,
double check it.
you said 2?
I was
I had a request for 2 minutes and then we'll come back.
Are we going, I just assume we get 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll recess the workshop. The vote is 6-0?
Yes,
All right, and I will shut the cameras off and then turn back on, so I'll need 5 minutes.
please. Thank you.
Alan, we're all set with the budget schedule now. After
I didn't,
we
yeah, when you
responded.
talked it out, I think we were fine.
We're fine, we're leaving it the way it is.
Yeah.
Subject to change as
I
needed.
mean, if something